Hello, I'm Mr. eTutor, your Mr. eTutor here at MrEtutor.com, and welcome to video module 11-6. In this module, I'll be discussing some of the underlying strategies for the SAT math subject tests. The first strategy, believe it or not, is that you're actually going to need to know some math for these tests. For the SAT 1 math section, as you may recall, the math that you needed to know was not terribly advanced in most cases. But for both of the math subject tests, you're going to find that that's not the case. For the two math subject tests, even the Math 1, you're going to find the necessary math extends beyond just basic geometry and algebra. If you don't feel reasonably confident with some more advanced algebra and geometry and perhaps even pre-calculus, you're going to find the math subject tests a little more than you can handle probably. At the same time, don't be put off by questions on either subject test that seem to test advanced concepts. Just like we saw in the SAT 1 math, the test's bark is much worse than its bite. The math subject tests also become much easier if you are skilled in the use of your calculator. Calculators can do a lot more than simply calculate, believe it or not. You can use your calculator to store any programs that you might find useful for types of questions that you find challenging. But you can also use your calculator to store actual notes and reminders. To do that, simply open up a program file in your calculator, but instead of actually programming anything into it, just type in whatever it is you need to be reminded of. Then on test day, if you need to, you can simply go to that program file within your calculator and read back anything that you have trouble with remembering. Personally, I've always had a ridiculously hard time with matrices for some reason. Not that they're that challenging, I just wasn't in school or something when we talked about them, so I've never really felt confident with matrices, and as a result, whenever I took these tests, I would first get my calculator out and type in everything about matrices that I might need to know. Then when I took the test, if I saw a matrix problem, I would just open up that file, read back how to do it, and know how to solve the problem very easily. Of course, you can do this with any difficult math concept that you might have personal troubles with. Another thing that will be extraordinarily helpful is if you are familiar with the unit circle explanations for trigonometry. If you've never heard of the unit circle, unfortunately this video module is not the time or place for me to explain it, but if you're not familiar with the idea of the unit circle and how those concepts can be used to explain basic trigonometric functions like sine, cosine, and tangent, you're going to want to hunt down a math teacher and ask him to explain the unit circle to you. Alternatively, of course, if you'd like, you can always pose any questions about the unit circle or anything else related to the Math 2 subject test at www.mysterytutorvault.com, where I will be happy to give it my personal attention. The reason I point out the unit circle in particular is that knowing about it tends to make trig questions fairly easy. Other than that, you basically want to apply the same strategic concepts we talked about for the SAT 1 math section. Remember that most students tend not to miss questions because they don't know the math, but rather because they're not familiar with basic concepts or because they misread the question. As one great example of that, please refer to page 190 in the College Board Subject Test Study Guide and look at question number 6. This is a question that roughly half of all test takers missed, but it involves no more complicated concept than the definition of the term cube, the definition of the term plane, and the definitions of square, parallelogram, and triangle. It's going to be these types of questions that frustrate most test takers though, and this type of question is something that you can definitely apply the SAT 1 math strategies to. Remember, it all comes down to basic concepts. And one more thing, if you're going to take the SAT subject test in math, you want to make sure that you don't rely only on this book. The College Board knows how much you love to give them money for books so you can study for their tests that you also have to give them money for, so they've actually come out with another book just with math subject tests. That book contains one test extra each in the Math 1 and Math 2 subjects for a total of 4 tests. So in other words, the other book contains 2 tests for Math 1 and 2 tests for Math 2, but one of the Math 1 and one of the Math 2 tests is already present in this book. Now, you still do, though, want to go ahead and buy that other supplemental book, because in addition to being able to double the amount of practice material that you have, you're also going to find that the other book contains solutions from the College Board to the individual questions in the test. Now, these solutions are, well, frankly, sort of your standard issue College Board solutions. They're not that good, but they're also not terrible, and they may help to jog your memory sometimes. If you find that those solutions are lacking, of course, you know what to do. Just head over to www.mysterytutorvault.com, find the relevant SAT subject test thread, and post whatever questions you have in there. And I will be happy to take care of you personally. So, thanks very much for watching, and remember, it's easier than you think.